I thought I was living the perfect life. 12 years of marriage, 2 beautiful children, a big house in a quiet suburb. My husband Daniel, our son Matthew, our little Emma. We had breakfast together every morning. We laughed in the backyard and grilled barbecue with our neighbors. I truly believed that was what real happiness looked like. But one evening, everything fell apart. I had just come home from work. I parked my car in front of the house. The kids were playing on the swings in the yard. And then our neighbor Stephen walked up to me. His face was pale, and the words he said changed my life forever. "Samantha, I caught them today." At first, I didn't understand. "Who?" He looked straight into my eyes. "Your husband and my wife." It felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. In that moment, I had no idea what was coming next. Betrayal, divorce, my children's tears, and a meeting that would change everything. This is a story about how one truth can destroy a family, and whether love can survive betrayal.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
I will regret this for the rest of my life. I remember that evening down to the smallest detail. Sometimes it feels like my life split into before and after in that very moment. Before that day, our life was ordinary, calm, the kind of life people call happy. My name is Samantha. I teach physics at the local university. I've always loved explaining to my students how the world works. Why apples fall. Why light bends in water. Why everything in the universe follows certain laws. But no one ever taught me how to survive when your own life falls apart. Daniel and I had been together for 12 years. Our house stood in a quiet suburb. Tall maple trees along the street. Neat green lawns. Kids riding bicycles. Neighbors waving to each other in the morning. Our house was big and bright, with a white porch. In the summer I placed pots of lavender there, and in the evening the soft scent of flowers filled the air. In the mornings we always had the same ritual. I made the coffee. Daniel made the toast. Matthew, our 10-year-old son, always sat at the table half asleep, his hair messy, trying to finish a comic book while I reminded him. "Matthew, the bus comes in 10 minutes. And little Emma, 6 years old, loved sitting on the kitchen island, swinging her legs and telling me all her little childhood secrets. "Mom, today I'm going to draw a horse. But a pink one." "Why pink?" I would laugh. "Because normal horses are boring." Daniel worked as an electrician for a large construction company. He often came home wearing his work jacket, a little tired but always smiling. He loved our children, and I always thought he loved me too. On Friday evenings we sometimes grilled barbecue in the backyard. That's how we got closer to our neighbors, Stephen and Linda. They had lived next door for 4 years. They were a little younger than us. They had a small daughter named Claire. The kids got along wonderfully. Matthew taught Claire how to ride a bicycle, and Emma and Claire spent hours drawing with chalk on the driveway in front of the house. Sometimes we all sat together near the grill, laughing, talking about work, school, life. I would look at all of it and think, this is our life. Calm, right? I had no idea that everything had already begun to crack, like glass. That day was ordinary. I came back from the university a little earlier. Tired after lectures, but satisfied. The students had finally understood a difficult topic about electromagnetism. When I drove up to our house, I saw the kids. Matthew was riding his bicycle along the driveway. Emma was on the swing, laughing as she pushed herself higher. Their laughter always made my day better. I parked the car, and at that moment Stephen walked up to me. His face looked strange, pale, tense. "Samantha," he said quietly. I smiled. "Hi, Stephen, everything okay?" But he didn't smile back. He looked at the kids, then back at me. "I need to tell you something." Something inside me tightened unpleasantly. "What happened?" He took a deep breath. I came home earlier from work today. I silently looked at him. And, his voice faltered a little. I caught them. Who? He looked straight into my eyes. And said the words that changed my life forever. Daniel and Linda. The world around me seemed to freeze. I didn't even understand the meaning right away. What? Stephen swallowed. They were in our bedroom. In bed. Together. I felt cold spread through my entire body. No, Samantha, I wouldn't lie. I saw it with my own eyes. It felt like the ground had literally disappeared beneath my feet. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. I looked at our house. Behind those walls sat my husband. The man I had lived with for 12 years. The man I trusted. Stephen said quietly, "I'm filing for divorce." I didn't answer. I just walked toward the house. Every step felt heavy. When I opened the door, the living room looked the same as always. A blanket lay on the couch. A cup stood on the table. And there sat Daniel. He lifted his eyes, and immediately understood. His face changed. "Samantha," my voice trembled. "Is it true?" He was silent. Those few seconds were longer than an eternity. Then he lowered his head. "Yes." Something inside me shattered. "How could you?" He stood up. "Samantha, listen." "No." My voice broke. "It was a mistake," he said quickly. "It meant nothing." I looked at him, and tears ran down my face. "Nothing? I love you," he said. "It just happened." "It doesn't just happen, Daniel." My voice echoed through the empty living room. "That's betrayal." I felt that I couldn't stand there any longer. I went upstairs. My hands were shaking as I opened the closet. I threw things into a suitcase. Mine, the kids'. I wasn't even thinking, just acting. A few minutes later Daniel stood in the bedroom doorway. "Samantha, please." I didn't look at him. "Don't do this." "You did this," I said quietly. Matthew and Emma came into the house just as I was carrying the suitcases downstairs. "Mom?" Matthew asked quietly. I knelt in front of them. My heart was breaking. "We're going to Grandma and Grandpa's for a few days." Emma smiled. "Really?" I forced myself to nod. Daniel stood by the door. "Samantha, please, don't go." I put the suitcases into the car. He walked closer. His voice was breaking. "I swear, it will never happen again." I looked at him, and I saw the man I once loved. But in that moment there was a huge crack between us. "Some things," I said quietly, "can't be fixed." I sat behind the wheel. Matthew and Emma were in the back seat. When the car started moving, I saw in the mirror Daniel standing on the road in front of our house. A small figure growing smaller and smaller. And then I realized, our old life stayed there. Behind us. I barely remember the drive that night. The headlights cut through the dark road, and everything in front of my eyes blurred with tears. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers hurt. The rearview mirror trembled slightly, and in it I could see my children's faces. Matthew was silent. Emma held her stuffed rabbit tightly against her chest. "Mom," she said quietly. "Isn't Dad coming with us?" It felt like a knife twisted inside my chest. I forced myself to smile even though my lips were trembling. "Dad, will stay home, sweetheart." "Why?" I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her world just fell apart? "Sometimes, adults need to figure out important things," I said softly. Emma nodded thoughtfully, but I could see she didn't understand. And maybe that was better. When we pulled up to my parents' house, the kitchen light was still on. My mom always left the lamp on if she knew someone might arrive late. I could barely get out of the car. The door opened before I even knocked. My mother, Margaret, stood in the doorway. She saw my face, and understood everything without a word. "Samantha, oh my God." I couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears poured out as if something inside me had burst. Mom hugged me, and I practically collapsed into her arms like a little girl. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're home. You're safe." Behind her appeared my father, Nicholas. He was tall, gray-haired, with kind eyes, but that night they were full of worry. What happened? I barely managed to say. Daniel cheated on me. My father closed his eyes for a second, as if holding back anger. Then he simply stepped forward and hugged me from the other side. You're here, he said quietly. That's what matters. That night I barely slept. I lay in my old room where a poster of a galaxy still hung on the wall from when I was a teenager. I stared at the ceiling and kept thinking, how could this happen? How can the person you share your life with break your heart so easily? The next days felt like thick fog. I cried in the kitchen. I cried in the bathroom. I cried at night when everyone was asleep. Mom made chamomile tea and quietly placed the cup in front of me. The pain will pass, she said. But at that moment it felt like it never would. Dad drove Matthew to school. Sometimes I heard him quietly talking to him in the hallway. Your mom is going through a hard time right now. Be there for her, okay? Matthew nodded seriously. One evening he came up to me. Mom, did you and Dad have a fight? My heart tightened. Yes, a little. Will you make up? I couldn't answer right away. Emma was sitting on the floor nearby, drawing. I want Dad to come to my school show, she said softly. I closed my eyes. We'll talk about it, sweetheart. That night I cried so hard that my mom sat beside me almost until sunrise. 2 weeks later, I filed for divorce. I remember sitting in the lawyer's office holding a pen. My hands were shaking. Are you sure? He asked. I looked out the window. And that image returned again. Stephen's words. Daniel's face, his confession. Yes, I said quietly. I'm sure. A month later our marriage officially ended. 12 years. Reduced to one signature. Daniel called sometimes. His name would appear on my phone screen. I looked at it, and couldn't press answer. Sometimes messages came. Samantha, please talk to me. I miss the kids. I know I destroyed everything. Every message reopened the wound. Like someone touching a stitch that hadn't healed yet. I never replied, because every time I thought about him, I remembered that day, and the pain came back. Sharp, deep, unbearable. Sometimes I sat by the window in my parents' house and looked at the dark sky. I used to teach my students that the universe has order, laws, formulas, reasons, but my life no longer followed any formula. And sometimes I whispered quietly to myself, how'd I learn to live again? A few months passed. On the outside, my life seemed to slowly come back together. I returned to the university. I stood in front of students again, writing formulas on the board and explaining the laws of physics. Sometimes I even laughed, but inside me there was still silence, the same cold emptiness that began that day. The kids and I were still living with my parents. My mom cooked breakfast, my dad drove Matthew to school, and Emma brought me new drawings almost every day. One day she drew a house, our old house, and 4 little figures standing in front of it. That's us, she said. I swallowed the lump in my throat. It's a beautiful drawing, sweetheart. But that night I stared at it for a long time, and cried. That day I was simply driving to the grocery store. It was a cold autumn evening. Leaves rustled under people's feet in the parking lot, and the air smelled like rain. I walked inside, grabbed a basket, and started putting things in it almost automatically. Milk, apples, pasta, cookies for the kids. And suddenly, I heard a familiar voice behind me. Samantha, my heart stopped. Slowly, I turned around. It was Daniel. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 months. He looked different, thinner, tired, older somehow. His eyes were red, like someone who barely slept. For a few seconds we just looked at each other. People walked around us, carts rattled across the floor, but for me the whole world disappeared. Hi, he said quietly. I didn't answer. My heart was beating faster. He took a careful step closer. I didn't know you'd be here. Neither did I said softly. Silence fell between us, heavy enough to almost touch. How are the kids? He asked. I noticed his voice trembling slightly. They're good. He lowered his eyes. I miss them so much. Those words cut deep. You should have thought about that earlier. He nodded. I know. We stood near the cereal aisle like two strangers. Then he said quietly, Samantha, please, give me a minute. I wanted to leave, but something made me stay. He rubbed his face with his hand. I know I don't deserve to even talk to you. His voice broke, but I need to say this. He looked straight into my eyes. I destroyed the best thing in my life. I stayed silent. You, our family, our home. The familiar pain rose again in my chest. Why, Daniel? I asked quietly. Why? He was silent for a long moment. I was a fool, he finally said. A selfish fool. He nervously rubbed his hands together. It meant nothing. It was a moment of weakness that I regret every single second. But that moment destroyed 12 years, I said. His eyes filled with tears. I know. He stepped closer. Samantha, I wake up every morning thinking about how I could have done something so stupid. His voice trembled. I go back to our house, and it's silent. No Emma laughing. No Matthew's comics on the table. No you in the kitchen with your cup of coffee. My eyes filled with tears again. I destroyed everything with my own hands, he whispered. I barely managed to say, yes. He took a deep breath. I'm not asking you to come back. I know that may be impossible. Pause. But please, don't erase me completely from the kids' lives. I looked down, because that was the most painful part. They ask about you, I said quietly. His shoulders shook. What do you tell them? I stayed silent for a long moment. That their father loves them. And then Daniel cried. Really cried. People walked past us, but he didn't even try to hide it. I love them, Samantha, and I love you. Those words hurt, because once, they were my whole world. I wiped a tear. Love isn't always enough. We stood there in silence for a few seconds. Then I said quietly, I need to go. He nodded. I understand. I took a few steps away. And suddenly I heard his quiet voice behind me. I will regret this for the rest of my life. I didn't turn around, but tears ran down my face as I walked toward the exit. Because even after everything, a part of my heart still remembered the man I once loved. A few more months passed. Life slowly became quieter. Not happy, but steadier. The pain was no longer as sharp as it had been in the first weeks. It simply lived somewhere inside me now, like an old scar that sometimes reminds you it's still there. Daniel started seeing the kids. At first, it was incredibly hard for me to allow it. Everything inside me resisted, but I could see how much Matthew and Emma missed him. So one day I simply said, he can take you on weekends. From that moment on, every Saturday at exactly 10 in the morning, his car stopped in front of my parents' house. I always recognized the sound of the engine, and my heart would tighten. I tried not to look out the window, but sometimes I couldn't help it. Daniel would step out of the car, a little nervous, with a soft smile. Matthew always ran to him first. Dad, Emma followed right after, and he would lift her into the air and spin her around. Her laughter filled the whole yard. And every time, before the kids got out of the car when they came back in the evening, flowers appeared on the kitchen table. At first they were tulips, then daisies, then white roses, and a small note, always the same sentence. I will regret this for the rest of my life. The first time I stared at those words for a long time. Then I quietly folded the note and put it in a drawer. But he kept bringing flowers. Every weekend, without saying a word, the kids always came back happy. Matthew immediately started telling stories. Mom, we went to the park today. Dad showed me how to throw a frisbee really far. Emma jumped beside him, and we ate ice cream. And pigeons ate from my hand. Sometimes they brought little treasures. A small stone Emma found near the river. Or a photo where they were sitting with Daniel on a bench. I looked at those photos, and felt a strange mixture of emotions. Pain, sadness, and a quiet warmth. One day Emma brought me a yellow leaf. Dad said it was the most beautiful leaf in the park. But I want to give it to you. I smiled. Thank you, sweetheart. She looked at me with her big eyes. Mom, will you come to the park with us too? I froze. What? Dad says the park is really beautiful in autumn. I said quietly. Maybe, someday. But one evening something different happened. We were sitting in the kitchen. Matthew was doing homework, and Emma was drawing. Suddenly she said, Mom? Yes, sweetheart? She didn't look up from her drawing. Dad always looks at our house before he leaves. Something tightened inside my chest. What do you mean? Emma shrugged. When he brings us home, he stands near the car and looks at your window. My voice became quieter. And what does he say? She thought for a moment. Nothing. Pause. But one time he said something, very quietly. I could barely breathe. What? Emma looked up at me. He said, I just want to see her one more time. My hands started trembling. Emma continued simply, like only a child can. Mom, Dad looks really sad. And then she said the sentence that broke my heart. I think he still loves you. Tears filled my eyes. That night I sat by the window for a long time, looking at the dark road in front of the house, thinking about everything, about 12 years, about our home, about his notes. And the next Saturday, when Daniel's car stopped in front of the house again, for the first time, I walked outside. He was standing beside the car door. When he saw me, he froze. We looked at each other for a few seconds. Then I quietly said, Daniel. His voice was almost a whisper. Samantha. I took a small step closer. Maybe, today we could all go to the park together. His eyes filled with tears. And for the first time in a very long time, there was a small, careful hope in his eyes. Sometimes life doesn't break with a loud sound. Sometimes it cracks quietly, almost invisibly. That's how our family broke that day. One mistake, one betrayal, one moment of weakness, and 12 years of love shattered like glass. I thought I would never be able to look at Daniel again without feeling pain. I believed my heart would stay cold forever. I thought trust was something that dies once and never comes back. The first months I lived only for one thing, survival. Survival for my children. Survival for myself. I cried at night. I asked myself hundreds of questions. Why? How could he do it? Was our love ever real? But time does something strange. It doesn't erase the pain. It teaches you how to live with it. And one day I started noticing other things. I saw Daniel standing beside his car after bringing the kids home, looking at our house as if his whole life was still inside it. I saw the flowers, those same flowers every week. And the small note, I will regret this for the rest of my life. I saw the way he looked at the kids, like he was afraid to lose even a second with them. I saw Matthew laughing next to him, Emma holding his hand, and then I understood something important. People make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones, sometimes the kind that feel unforgivable. But sometimes the real strength of love is not that it never breaks. It's that it finds a way to rebuild itself from the broken pieces. One evening we were sitting on an old wooden bench in the park. Matthew was kicking a ball across the grass. Emma was collecting yellow leaves. And Daniel sat beside me very quietly, as if he was afraid to scare away the fragile moment. Samantha, he finally said. I looked at him. His eyes were full of regret and hope. I know I don't deserve a second chance. He spoke softly, but every word was sincere. But if there is even the smallest chance in this world, I will spend the rest of my life proving that I will never destroy what we have again. I stayed silent for a long moment. I looked at our children, at our memories, at the man I once loved, and suddenly I realized the pain was no longer controlling my heart. It had become a memory, a scar, but not a prison. I said quietly, a second chance doesn't mean forgetting the past. I paused. It means deciding that our future matters more than it. Daniel didn't say anything. He simply took my hand. Carefully, as if he was afraid I might pull it away. But I didn't. And in that moment I understood one more truth. Love is not about perfect people. Love is about people who, after falling, find the strength to stand up again, and hold each other even tighter. Sometimes the strongest families are the ones that were once almost destroyed. Because they know the price of losing each other. And the price of forgiveness. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new stories. And also write in the comments how you liked this story on a scale of 1 to 5. Watch the following video and enjoy watching.